Welcome to Brain Power with Dr. Echo, where each week we discuss how your family can boost brain health by addressing mind, body, emotional, and environmental health. And now, here's the episode. Hello, parents. Welcome to another episode of Brain Power with Dr. Echo. And today we have the amazing Dr. Maisha Claremont with me. And I'm going to let her introduce herself because she's simply a powerhouse. So, Dr. Maisha, welcome to the show, and please introduce yourself.
Dr. Echo, first of all, thank you so much for having me on the show. I'm so excited for this conversation today. I used to share with you behind the scenes. I love talking to parents. I love talking about parenting and communication. So I'm so excited about the conversation. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Dr. Maisha Claremont. My trained specialty is family medicine. And I grew up in the world of integrative medicine. That means that I integrated in more holistic modalities into my practice for the many years that I did practice. I practiced for about 15 years and then I transitioned out to coaching. And I coach from a brain communication, neuroscience and standpoint. I help people with unhealed trauma to be able to process that trauma and release that trauma, the negative emotions, limiting beliefs and decisions that hold us back, that impact our behaviors, that impact our communication. And I teach people how to communicate in ways that leave you feeling seen, heard, respected, valued, and others welcome. So that's what I now do. Oh, and I'm also a mom. Of course, it's the most
Very
important
fast.
part. It's a good part. I am a mom. I have currently at the time of this podcast, he is in the fourth grade. He just turned 10, and we are in the world of preteen, and it is very interesting.
Yes, I have a 12-year-old too,
Oh,
so and a 15-year-old, so
oh,
I get it.
yeah, yep. He's at this stage where like there's the part of him that like still lovey dovey, and he's like, "Oh, mommy, can you check on me? Or can I have a hug? Or can I this?" But then like 5 minutes later, he's like, snappy, and arguing with me, and I'm like, "Dude, like what?" So I told him last night. I said, "You know what? I'm gonna buy you a book on puberty, so you can know what's happening inside your body." He's like, "I'd rather just talk to you about it." I was like, "You can talk to me about it, but you're still gonna read the book too."
Right. Wow, that is so wonderful. And I love that you said you focus on communication in the realm of parenting. And so let's talk about that. So, and I know you also mentioned you talk to people from the angle of neuroscience and all things brain, which is so important because our brains run us literally. And so, yes, tell us parents what strategies can we implement to communicate better with our kids? Or maybe we should even start earlier than that.
Yeah.
What are our communication styles that we need to address with ourselves? And then how can we improve that with our kids?
I think I'll start with the fact that we, we think that we are consciously communicating, and oftentimes we are communicating. Number one, let's just face it, we're not really taught how to communicate effectively as kids.
Yeah.
So by and large, we inherit our communication. We inherit it from, generations, from like cultural, like the cultures that we come from. We inherit it from what our parents did and what their parents did. We inherit it from society and what our educators taught us. Like there's all these ways that we inherit the ways that we communicate, and even our peers, right? So now my son's 10 and he's using all this Gen Alpha slang, and even I'm like starting to like use it a little bit just to
Right.
try to relate to him. And he really doesn't like when I use Gen Alpha slang, by the way. It's like if that's the uncoolest thing that I can be doing is using his slang.
Imagine that.
Right, right. So we inherit all these ways of communication, but we're not necessarily taught what are the effective ways. They may have been effective in some ways, but not always the most healthy ways. Right. So the way that I'm a Gen Xer, the way that my parents talked to me, was very fear based, and it installed this sort of like unconscious fear. And then as I have sort of deconstructed the trauma that I've experienced in my childhood around communication, around interaction. And don't get me wrong, my parents were great parents. They are great parents. They're still with us. I love them. We're tight, tight. And I recognize some of the unhealthy habits that I picked up along the way in communication, and how when as a younger parent, when Delson was younger, a lot of the ways that I communicated was fear based.
Mhm.
And so even when you do a lot of personal development, having a child changes you, because you know the child knows all the buttons and they push all the buttons, and there's a higher level of worry and unconscious fear that we have. And so it can activate fear that we didn't know we even had. So I think it's important to start there, to start with what are the ways that we inherited communication, and what are the unconscious beliefs and things that were installed in us that have us interact with our young people the way we do.
And what are some ways that we as parents can sit down long enough to have this conversation with ourselves? Like what things can facilitate that?
You know, I like having dialogues with friends and with spouses. So if you know you if you're married, if you have a spouse, I mean I personally I'm a single mom, so I have my conversations with other moms. I think it's so useful for us to talk with each other, to begin to have these conversations like, okay, this is how I was when I grew up. You know, when I grew up, it was leave your feelings at the door. Or when I grew up, you know, my kid couldn't talk to me like this without a you know, a flip-flop being thrown, or, you know, something being thrown at you, or, you know, it used to be they just go for the belt. So, like, to understand, like, okay, this is how we grew up.
Mhm.
How do we wanna change that? You know,
Yeah.
what are some of the conversations? I think it's also important to understand that we're not alone in these conversations, because it's easy to then take on guilt, mom guilt, for the ways that we're interacting with our kids. But we have to understand that once we are aware, we can shift and change. And kids are incredibly resilient,
Yes.
right? That's
Mhm.
and they see when you're trying to make the change. They can see it even if they don't say it, right? And sometimes they will say it. And so I think the first thing we do is we start having conversations with each other. We start having conversations with our spouses, say, okay, you know what, this is the way I grew up, but this is not exactly the way I want to interact with my kids. Or if it's like, well, if we have one spouse that says, well, I don't see why we need to change it, work for us, to really look at, well, it might have worked for us, but did it leave us a little traumatized? You know, so there's that conversation. And then the third thing I think to also recognize is to not over to not overcompensate, because we talk about this concept of gentle parenting. And I'm a Gen X again, so I don't know nothing about that coming up.
Like what is that?
Right. And when I first heard of gentle parenting, I was like, and I saw that you would see these certain depictions
Mhm.
in certain
Right.
cultures of
Right.
what gentle parenting looked like. And I'm like, no, I'm not going that far.
No.
Right. But as I've learned about and I like to reframe it as conscious parenting,
Mhm.
right? When I've learned more about what gentle parenting or conscious parenting looks like, it doesn't mean that you take away a child's ability to be able to experience adversity.
Right.
We have to tell our kids no sometimes, because guess what? They're going to go in the world and hear no. They need to understand what rejection is, and not be able to make a story up about it about themselves. You know, that builds resilience. We need to, you know, like, I don't always give my son choices. I give him choices for the most part, but sometimes I'm like, you know, you're going to go out in the world and you're going to have areas where there's not going to be choices for you, right? There you can find a workaround, but I can't always give you all the choices that you want. You know, you have to teach our children responsibility. I know that in my generation, we always want to make it better for the next generation. And so, you know, I, I stopped having my cleaners come every couple of weeks,
Mhm.
because now I have a son who is capable of sweeping floors
Right.
and cleaning the bathroom and making his own lunch.
Mhm.
But I know
There
parents,
too.
yeah, I know parents who are like, "Oh, they shouldn't have to do all of that." And I'm like, "Oh, yes, they should, because when we have kids who are growing up who can't boil an egg,
Mhm.
cook pasta," which are, I think, the 2 most simple things to do,
Right.
you know, who can't clean their house, who can't wash their clothes.
Mhm.
So, these are the conversations we have with each other. I often am colluding with moms like, "Okay, what's your kid doing? Okay, is this normal? Okay, this is how I'm doing it. What are you doing?"
Right.
And when we exist in community that way, then we can we can grow together and empower ourselves to be able to empower each other. And if you know that you struggle with communication, then that's where you seek that outside counsel, that outside help,
Right.
you know.
Absolutely. And I think everybody needs a therapist, including the therapist themselves.
That's
It's
right.
so important. That's right. It's so important to be able to say this
Mhm.
outside of yourself, get it out of you, write it out on the paper. That's why they
Mhm.
say journal, right? And all of those things, because it definitely makes a difference. In my life, I've seen it for sure. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, so one of the things that I have learned, and I'm still learning and I'm always learning, is how to listen to my son.
Right.
How to listen differently from how I was listened to, and also how to listen to my son differently than how I listen to adults.
Hmm.
Because I think that sometimes, we think that children are little adults. They're not. They are young developing brains. And it can be easy, especially when your child is maybe like has I like to say an old soul or a mature soul, to
Hmm.
almost mistake them from being a grown person.
Yes.
Yeah. And I will, like admit, like I still do that. And I have to, my son reminds me, he will remind me, I'm just a kid, or I was overwhelmed. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. You are 10 after all, you know? And so understanding for me personally, and also the thing that I often share, with other parents, is understanding where our kids are in their development and in their developmental stages can be incredibly helpful in framing how we speak to them,
Right.
you know? And I also think that while we have to understand that they're developing, we also can give them credit for their ability to process difficult things.
Yeah.
And so we can also communicate honestly with them, right? And when we model emotional intelligence, then they can they can pick that up, they can absorb that. So I talk to my son about my feelings, like if I'm feeling sad, or if I'm feeling, if I we have a loss, like I had a person in my community who died, and I was feeling sad, and he would say, "Mommy, you look sad." I said, "Well, I am sad." I said, we lost a person in our community." And he would say, "Oh, I'm sorry," and they said, "Well, what can I give you a hug?" And I always let him know that it's not his responsibility to make me feel better, but I think it's very sweet that he wants to comfort me, right?
Right.
And so, like, really being honest with our emotions. If I'm stressed, I might say, "Hey, today I'm stressed out, so I need you to cooperate with me today," right? Because my bandwidth is shorter,
Hmm.
right? So these are some ways that we can begin to be honest and open and model communication. The more we are able to do the work on our with ourselves, to be able to expand our own emotional intelligence, to be able to um, expand our own capacity for communication and heal our own internal trauma,
Right.
the better we will be at modeling the type of behavior that we want to teach our children.
Absolutely. So I had a thought when you just said something about when your son sees you're sad and then he reaches out and says sorry and wants to give you a hug, and you said it's not his responsibility to make you feel better. How do you have that conversation where so the kid doesn't think, I don't know, how do you have that conversation well with them to explain that better to them so they don't think, okay, mommy is saying I shouldn't show empathy because that's not what you're saying. But
Correct.
the child may not understand that. And I was just curious.
Yeah. Well, so I kind of listen for when he might be tipping into that.
Okay.
So that's more how I do it. Generally, if he's like, "Well, let me help, give you a hug," and then we hug and we cuddle, and it makes me feel better. But
Yeah.
every now and then, I'm a recovering people pleaser. And sometimes I see it, right? If he's like,
Okay.
"Oh, but I wanna do this to make you feel better. I wanna make you," when he starts using that language
Mhm.
too much, then
Okay.
I will say, "I want you to know that I so appreciate that you wanna make me feel better, and I also want you to know that it's not your responsibility to make me feel any kind of way." Right? So,
Okay.
like, you're, you know, like, you're the child and I'm the adult, so I should be able to make there's nothing that you need to take out of my way,
Mhm.
but so it's like that kind of like that "and" piece, "And I really love cuddling with you, and it does make me feel better." So that's the way I put it, but I don't and it's not a conversation I have with them all the time.
Mhm.
It's just when I start to hear that, "Well, I wanna do this so that or I wanna make you or I wanna, make you feel this way or make you feel that. What can I do
Okay.
to not make you feel as stressed out?"
Right.
And I'll just say, "Well, me being stressed out has nothing to do with you. Mommy's handle that. It's just how I'm feeling right now."
Right. Thank you. Because yeah, I hear people say that and I always wonder like how do they really say it to the kids? Because you don't want the kids to go off thinking, oh yeah, I don't have to show empathy and okay, whatever, whatever. I was like, you're shutting them down, even though they have they're in that building phase of building how they respond to the world and how they respond to people. So the
Yeah.
balance of it. Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, that was I like that you said you don't have that conversation all the time and you just listen out for the languaging.
Yeah. The listening piece is so important, right?
Yes.
I think that's the piece that I don't know, at least my parents, not by any fault of theirs, they weren't like the best listeners because back in the day, it's like speak when you're spoken to. You're a child, be in a child's place. So of course they're not really listening to us. Just uh, beyond logistics.
You're so right. I mean, I grew up in the same era too.
it's, it's like
That's right.
logistics. That's all they want to hear. Like, what are you doing that you're supposed to do? What homework do you have? What like where do we have to go? Like it's logistics, right?
Right.
And so what do you want for dinner?
Or eat what you're given.
Yes, that's right
We
too. That's
know.
right too.
Right.
Right. But like listening to what's important, listening a little bit more deeply to our kids will help us to number one, know when there's a problem early on.
Yes.
Right? No one does a problem early on. And I asked my son questions. We were at the pediatrician's for his 10-year well child check earlier this week, and I let him fill out the form. And I was doing the sports physical form, and he was doing like the regular, form what does he like to do, all the little personal questions that they ask. He was doing that part. So there was a question that was like, do you feel sad or do you feel sad most of the days? Do you worry most of the days? And I didn't fill that out until I had a chance to like ask him.
Right.
Right. So I asked the question, I showed him the question. I said, which one should I put? Right, so that he can answer that question, and it gives me some information, and if whether he's hesitating and, like, I'm sort of watching, but he just without question answers, so that's the kind of listening that we can begin to do as parents.
Right.
Also, when our kids are telling us those seemingly random things about their day, this is a time to listen too because you can catch, like, what's important to your child.
Right.
And when you can catch what's important to your child, you can motivate them.
Mhm.
Mm, let me say that one again.
Oh yes, please.
When you understand what's important to your child, you can motivate them. So my son likes video games. He likes anime. He's into that now.
Okay.
What else does he like? He likes he likes reading on the iPad, reading books on the iPad and listening to podcasts.
Okay.
So I leverage that a little bit.
Yeah.
You can listen to the podcast after you complete your chores.
Woo, of
Yeah.
course.
Right. You know, if we're going to for his 10th birthday in lieu of since it's the 10th, in lieu of a birthday party, I'm turning 50 in April. We're gonna go to Japan in the summer. So I say to him, listen, we're not gonna if it's okay with you, we're not gonna have a birthday party because we're going to Japan. I'm gonna put the money that I usually spend on your birthday party towards our Japan trip,
Okay.
and we'll make sure that we visit all your favorite anime places, right? Oh, no problem, right? So listening to what you know is important to your kids, you can leverage
Yeah.
and motivate them, right?
Yes.
I said, what's your goal for your grades? And he says, well, my goal is to get all A's. So later on, if he's complaining about homework, or I say, well, you said you wanted to get all A's.
Right.
What do you think you need to do?
Correct.
You
And
know,
have to answer itself. He will have to coach himself to give you the right answer.
right. That's right. So, that's those are some little tips and tricks that I use to motivate my kid that I often share with parents. And if you think about it, coming back to brain science, neuroscience, we're directionalizing our child's thinking.
Right.
And that's the essence of what I do. My background training in neurolinguistic programming is how you use language, spoken and unspoken, to directionalize a person's thinking. And oftentimes we communicate just like unaware with unawareness. We don't always pay attention to what's coming out of our mouths. We're not paying attention to our thoughts. And when we're not paying attention to our thoughts and what's coming out of our mouth, we cause harm. And so when we can slow down and think about how we're saying things, how we want to communicate it, what is the direction of thinking that we want our child to have, empowered thinking that we want our child to have, or how we motivate them,
Right.
then we can listen to find out what are those key words or key interests to be able to directionalize that thinking.
Absolutely. Well, that means we have to stop the chatter in our brain long enough, put down our phones too long enough to hear this message and they accept it to us.
Yes.
And it's a cry for help. They're like, please hear me.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, we can have fun too with our kids.
I've been asking how to do it. It's like there's so much adulting to do. It's like, I don't have time for that, but we have to have time for that. Like, that's critical. Yeah.
This myth that we have to play for hours and hours with our kids in order
Oh,
to have fun with them. But
oh,
do you know 15 minutes, their concept of time is very different from ours.
it is.
15 minutes of a game of go fish is
Mm-hmm.
like so gratifying to them. Me and my son, we have 15 minutes before I have to go upstairs and get on a meeting, then or call.
Mm-hmm.
Then I say, okay, well, let's play a game of Uno spin. He loves Uno spin, right?
Right.
Gets real competitive with some Uno. So we play Uno, or we play Go Fish, or we play 21 Blackjack, right? Or we play I Declare War. We play Monopoly.
Oh,
Monopoly
yeah,
takes a little bit
yeah.
longer.
Yes.
We need 30 minutes for Monopoly
Oh, more. Because
or
some
more.
people is aggressive.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
So these little bit of time periods, if we can put 15 minutes a day,
Mhm.
that is chef's kiss to our young kids.
It is. Oh my goodness. It makes such a difference.
Yeah.
When my kids are like, come play with me. And I'm like, oh, but I had to remind myself that it's so important because it's the way they speak love, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why it just reminded me of my book that I wrote, Children's Love Letters. And the child smells love because it's not time like we know they always say it's time. And then we parents are thinking, I don't have time. So why am I going to spend the time? But it's in so many, it's on all the little things that we do.
Mhm.
They spell love. They spell, yeah, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
looking at them in their eyes and putting down my 12-year-old tells me all the time, Mommy, I'm talking to you, put the phone down. Okay. So instead of getting mad, I put the phone down because I empowered him to tell me. And I've told my kids, if you hear mommy raising her voice continuously, she's giving you permission to say, mommy, you told us not to yell at each other. And I will. This stops my brain because really what comes out of the yelling in the air
Yes.
thing, it just
Yeah.
hypes, builds your own blood pressure and makes things not go well. So
Oh,
yeah,
true.
on
Yeah.
me.
Listen, I
Yeah.
love the and they was and the kids our kids are not gonna remember the things that we gave them. They're gonna remember the things we did with them,
Yes.
you know? Yeah, yeah. So, we used to this year I didn't do a great job of it. We used to go bike riding together, me and my son. I finally got a bike that was passed down to me by my parents after they moved out of the country. Uh, and so that's a thing. We like put the bikes on the rack or we sometimes it's simple. We just go walking in the neighborhood.
Yes.
Just go walk around the neighborhood and chat. He has a joke book. He likes to tell jokes at the dinner table. I said, "Do you sit down and eat with your kids?" And it's like, when you sit down and eat with the kids, put the phone away, right? He sometimes if I bring my phone, he'll be like, "All right," you know,
Right?
unless
Yeah.
I'm looking at funny videos with him.
You're absolutely right. So something I did the other day with my 7-year-old, I dropped her at school. She didn't quite want to get out of the car. She was like, I'm just gonna dive. She's like a little diva in the making. She had her sunshades on and was crossing her legs in the back seat. I was like, "Oh, baby, okay." I'm like, your mother needs to take notes. And so then she looked out of the window and looked at the sky. She's like, Mommy, look, the clouds are racing. And I was like, oh. And I actually looked, I'm like, oh, yes, they are. And we had the best 10 minutes watching the clouds race. And then I said to her, what if we race the clouds after school? And so it made me so happy. And I was like, why? Well, it was just that simple, watching the clouds race themselves.
It's so interesting. It's such a good point you make. Like, it makes us feel good too.
Yeah, it
We
does.
think in the moment, we think, "Oh, I don't have time. I have so much to do." But when we actually stop I really got this during the pandemic. Like, the pandemic did a lot of really bad things, but it also did some good things for us.
Right.
And for me personally, it really reconnected me to play because I was kind of forced to do it, right? I mean, my kid was
Right.
home for kindergarten and he's a kindergarten, so they really need more of that attention. And he's an only child, so he didn't have another somebody to play with. And we
Right.
don't do television like all day, every day.
Right.
So, we'd be outside in the back throwing a frisbee, or outside shooting some basketball hoops.
Right.
And it got me really connected to my own sense of play, which connected me more to him,
Right. Yes.
And so that was just super fun to like experience. Like when now we tell jokes, at the dinner table
Yeah.
and or we do riddles, like we just make up random riddles that don't make sense kind of thing. Or would you rather? He loves would you rather.
Right.
Would you rather be a tree or the leaves on the tree?
Okay. That's a good one.
Would you rather be the dirt or the worms in the dirt?
No,
Right? Like, that's the I'm a boy, so that's the kind of stuff we talk about, right?
yeah, it's wonderful. Wow.
Yeah.
I love it. So parents, I hope you're hearing the simple ways. I mean, and it also taps into the kid in us because all of us have kids. But we still have
Yeah.
a kid in us that's there and that we need to nourish and take care of still. I
Yeah.
feel like
Yeah.
when you lose touch with who you really are on the inside, then you lose touch with everything else. I mean,
So true. It's so true. But you know what? It does take intention.
yes.
It does take intention. And in our very, very busy lives, it also takes structure,
Hmm.
right? So one of the things that I do is especially because I own my own business, I have to structure time away from work. And so, people might say, "Well, you have to schedule time with your." Yes, I schedule the between this time and this time is time with my kid. It may be dinner time, it may be time after that, but like between these times, it's blocked off. I'm inaccessible,
Right.
right, to others for anything, for phone calls, for anything.
Right.
And so that allows me to be able to, when sometimes Delson will help to come cook, When we sit down for dinner, it's just me and him. After dinner, I always go and, and we sit down in the living room and we're like, what are we going to do? Right now, because we're going to Japan in May, we are doing Duolingo Japanese lesson. We're going to do our Duolingo, right? And we do that for like 10 minutes. And then maybe we go play a game or something, But it takes like real intentionality to be able to do that. So it's scheduled. And then on the weekend, it's like, okay, this time is for my son. This time is for any work that I need to get done, and and then that helps him too, because he can understand that, okay, this is my time. And then when mommy's doing her admin time, she's doing her admin time. And then she'll be back with me, right? This is our bedtime ritual stuff together, like whether I'm reading or whether we're just doing our cuddle time, good night time, or whatever that is, this is my time. And he always gets that time. And providing that consistency and that structure for your kid also gives them a sense of safety and security as well.
And love and peace and joy and all the good things.
Mhm, mhm, mhm,
Yes.
all of those. Yeah.
And foster their growth as children, because really children need all those ingredients. When you look at kids who have been in orphanages versus kids who are loved,
Mhm,
both is there's a difference, like
mhm,
just physical growth by itself.
mhm.
So yeah, all the reasons why.
Yes.
Wow, we could go on and on forever,
Oh my
but
gosh,
we'll
yeah.
have to do a part two of this. So thank you in advance for coming back. So, but
I'd love to. I'd love to. And we can also continue the conversation on my podcast. I need to have it on my podcast too.
okay, I accept. I'll be there. Yes. So can you please tell our parents where they can find out more information about the amazing services you provide?
Absolutely, absolutely. So my primary website is mindremappingacademy.com, mindremappingacademy.com. And there are a couple of ways that you can engage with me. So if you're thinking, you know what, I would really love some one-on-one coaching, particularly if you're like, well, I know I have some things I need to like get rid of, some old trauma from my parenting, or I want to reparent myself. That's something that I can help you work with. If you are inside of an organization or community or group and you're like, man, she would be a great speaker to come and talk about this type of thing. If you're an organization, have an ERG group, that's also a place where you can engage with me. And finally, I have a podcast. So it's called Behind Beliefs and Behaviors, and it's a communication podcast. So if you're like, I just want to hear more about her, then you can go and you can listen to the podcast where I talk lots about communication and ways that we can listen, ways that we can create trust and safety. And so those are the primary website is mindremappingacademy.com, and everything will be there for you to peruse. In terms of social media, I'm on most platforms. I'm on Instagram, and I'm on LinkedIn and Facebook, and I'm also on TikTok and YouTube. So I'm on all of them. It's backslash Dr. Maisha. Whatever your favorite platform is, just go there and you can follow me.
She's there. Please do something good for yourself and go follow her. That's what I'm gonna say. So thank you so much again for sharing your wisdom with us and coming on here. And parents, please share this episode with family and friends that you know need to hear it. And until next time, have a wonderful day.
Thank you.